In today's video, I'm going back to my markers. I'm trying this render drawing pad. It's really nice. The paper is so smooth, and I think I did some tests in it, but never a full drawing. So today I'm painting like slightly bigger than what I'm used to. And let me tell you that I love this paper. I feel like it drinks a lot of the marker up, but still, like, I love the texture, and you're gonna see the colors are super vibrant and super saturated. It's just a joy to work with. I like to trim it to the size that I'll actually use and then save those scraps of paper to test out some color schemes, and when I'm doing details with colored pencils, I'll always try them first on the little paper. My set of colored pencils has so many colors that it's easy to get lost. Here's what we're drawing today. I always like to do a quick color scheme on Procreate or on Photoshop, depending where I'm drawing. And this makes it a lot easier because, well, I don't have to be thinking all the time. And also helps me not get lost in the colors. When we're working traditionally, there are some kind of problems, I'm gonna say problems with air quotes, that we don't really have when we're drawing and painting digitally. For example, if you lay down a very pale yellow and you lay down a very pale blue or green, for example, they're not gonna contrast between themselves. So the drawing, unless you're going for a really pastel look, the drawing is gonna lack some sort of difference in values. And of course it depends on what you want with your drawing. For example, if you just want a soft look with colors that don't really contrast, then that's perfect. But I like very vibrant colors, I like very bold ones. So if I have something that doesn't really sit well with another one, especially when I'm drawing without outlines, it's gonna get muddy and I'm not gonna be able to differentiate what plane is what and what value is what. So if I try it first, I'll be sure that they work separately and side by side. You know what? Next video, I'm gonna be sure to include, next time I work with markers, I'm gonna be sure to show that with the markers themselves, so that's easier to understand a little bit what I'm trying to say. Sometimes we can still salvage the drawing by, well, layering and then just adding the other color on top of it, but I feel like it saturates the paper a lot. So if you're working on those cheaper, like the Canson XL marker pad, it doesn't handle a lot of layers that well. It does, but it becomes very dense. So the best thing is still to just like try to plan as much as you can, or not. I don't know, whenever I make videos and I talk about a way of doing things, I always imagine that there is somebody else that likes it completely different. Like, for example, there are people who just enjoy grabbing their colors as they go and picking them randomly and seeing what happens with the color scheme right there on the paper. But in case you are like me, and in case you always have like a picture in your head and you really get happy when you achieve that picture in your head somehow. And I think there are different instances in drawing. There are those times where you just want to chill and grab a few markers and then, like, I don't know, like have fun with whatever comes out of it. But some other times, especially when you're making like a piece or when you're working for somebody, a client, you kind of want the drawing or the painting to have a little bit of predictability. Is that a word? Okay, it is a word. So you kind of want to know more or less how it's going to look like, because you can't really rely on just randomness all the time. So for those times, here are my tips or tricks, or I don't know, the way I do it. By the way, I'm in love with that color right there. It's just so pretty. As you can see, in a bigger drawing like this, there are going to be instances where it's a little bit harder to layer a flat, even color, because it's just too big of an area and there are some parts that are going to dry first. But I try to work fast, and if it really bothers me, like if it's really patchy, I'll just go over it with one more layer and then things tend to smooth out. The color becomes a little bit saturated, a little bit more saturated, a little bit stronger, but it's not that bad. And you just have to make sure to add 2 layers to whatever you do, so you have like a uniform color palette, or if you just want that really same color everywhere. Whenever I see a bigger area like this, I'm like, okay, now it's time to finally practice the chisel tip. But then as I go, I have no control because I've never even practiced. Like I don't really use it. So I get very self-conscious, and then it's like, oh no, I hate it. Like that. You just saw like it's all over the place. Like the beginning touches the paper, but then as I go, I don't know how to control it. So I just like try multiple times and fail every single time, but anyways, and then I let go, and then I go back to the bullet tip, and then like that, my friends, I never really practice it, and then it just keeps happening every time. I feel like it's very useful to have control of the chisel tip, but at the same time, I feel like every time I use it, I have patchier parts, so that's why I end up really like letting go. But I kind of still want to practice it because I feel like I just ignore it all the time. Like any marker, I just completely ignore that part, that tip. And also I don't feel like training it in a separate paper because I'm just going to be using up the marker and then wasting ink away just for the sake of practice. But I wonder if you do that as well. Do you use the chisel tip? Like, am I the only one that just ignores it and never practices? Of course not. But I see people using it, and I find it so pretty because it's like, it looks like this big brush that it's gonna fill things really fast. And whenever I see people using it, it still feels a little patchy. But for some reason, it looks cool, and it makes me want to try it. But then I end up not really enjoying it. And as you can see, again, I just moved back to the bullet tip. Also because like as useful as it is, there are some areas that it's just more practical to go with the bullet tip, so you end up changing anyway. So I try, and then I'm like, what's the point to be like changing it all the time? But then I don't know, it's just like a weird conversation that I have with myself, like, yeah, let's practice. Oh no, but it's not that practical, let's go back. Like I'm sure most of it's because I don't have enough practice, so I don't have control over it. So my brain is like trying to make me stop because I don't have control, and it wants to just go back to something that I have more knowledge of. And that's the story of a human being staying in her comfort zone. Lately I've been thinking a lot about art supplies and what to paint with. Since I have less time, whenever I want to paint on the weekends, I'm like, I don't really want to be on the screen again. But then I also am a little bit too self-conscious of my time and how little I have, so I'm like, I don't really want to get all the art supplies out, like for watercolors or acrylics or anything that requires water, because it's just like, it's gonna take more time. Not that I don't enjoy it, but it just makes my brain get a little more self-conscious, and then I think too much about it, and then I end up procrastinating somehow and then not doing it. But markers, I feel like it's so much easier because, well, they're there, they're ready. There is no mixing colors. It's just easier to jump into them and just create. and find the colors that will go to whatever you want to do. I feel like it's a great in-between to paints, actually painting with tubes or pens, and the digital world of Procreate and Photoshop, because it's kind of like a solid color that you get the same. There are no variations. You can blend out a bit, but it's not like that crazy. You don't have the crazy amount of possibilities as with paints, and you cannot really mix the colors. So it feels a little lighter to just sit down and start painting with them. Especially Copics and brush markers, they have this perfect brush nib, or it's just like fantastic to work with. Every time I get so happy just for the control that I have, and it feels really good. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. I don't even pick up my colored pencils anymore to do little details like the hair and the eyes. I know it sounds silly, like I just started using markers, but it's just that every time I come back to them, it's just so relaxing and it feels so good that I get so happy. As I was adding some definition with my colored pencils, I see that I got really confused with my own sketch and forgot to paint the neck. I think I thought it was one of those stripes in the shirt. So I tried to go over it, but then you can really tell that there are two different sections and there's a line right in the middle. And this times that's really not much you can do. Like if you keep overworking it, it's just gonna end up really different from the rest of the image, and then it's gonna like draw attention because it's so different. So the best thing to do is just let it go. Try as best as you can to not think about it, and then fix it digitally on Photoshop. Marker paper is usually very smooth, so it doesn't damage the nibs of the markers, but then because of that we don't have a lot of texture, and sometimes it can feel a little bit too smooth, like too plain. So I love colored pencils and oil pastels to go with that and bring up those textures again, so it just adds a little bit of detail and a little bit of charm. I hope you enjoyed watching a little bit of my process with markers. I love the final result. It makes me very happy. It's funny because in past videos I was talking about not enjoying the end result of some random drawings and then drawing just for fun and for practice. And then this is like the complete opposite of that. It's like when I enjoy the process and I love the final result. And it's just, it makes you so motivated to go back to drawing, and after you're done, it's just like, I just want to repeat this. And I feel like that's the whole purpose that we make pieces and pictures. It's because it feels so good, and then we just want to repeat it all the time. And we know like deep inside that it's not going to be perfect all the time. It's not going to feel like this all the time. But still, I believe that that's what keeps us going, and it feels good. So I hope you have an amazing time drawing or painting, and this could inspire you a little bit more to work with markers, because they're such a joy. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye!